Hi, welcome to Ben and Barry on Football. This is the matchup show going into Wildcard Weekend 2028/19. Happy New Year's, everybody. My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. My compadre in crime is
Ben Dickerson.
Ben Dickerson, Fantasy Fool. Barry Mitchell, Mad Nuts.
Did you say Fantasy Fool?
Fantasy Fool, yeah.
He's right.
And this is the matchup show. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the matchups for this coming weekend. 4 games.
Yeah.
Just four games, man. I mean, the quality of the teams is all of that kind of stuff is the only thing giving me quality over quantity, where I'm normally looking for 16 games over a 3 or 4 day stretch from Thursday to Monday night. No Thursday night, no Monday night.
No Monday night, no red zone to fall back on, so you don't want to miss anything.
Oh, wait.
So you're going to watch
no red zone. You got to watch the whole game.
You're going to watch the whole game to its entirety.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Which is what you should do, because these games mean everything.
And this is a great time because really you can't actually focus on the finer points of the game, and you'll get an opportunity to fill in on some of those finer points as we look at the matchups. Now, I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. We utilize the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings to produce what is called the bias and the bias plus. The bias goes with the net points and with the turnover differential. And then we combine those two to get a bias plus score. So you'll hear us go through that process as we discuss this. And it is unique. We're the only ones doing anything like that. But again, it's the starting point of analysis, and it's a baseline of information. So once we start that conversation, carry it up, pick it up, send us some information. Let us know if you think we're crazy, what you think, what you like to add to the conversation. Maybe you got some information that we don't have. So we're going to give you the information that we have, and then we're going to go from there. So before I kick that into gear, Mr. Dickerson, anything you want to say?
In reference to what? The matchups?
In reference to anything before we kick this matchup
off. In reference
off.
to anything before we kick this off. And that's because we have time, because we only have 4 games. So I'm going to real quick think of something, and that something is we normally go through what we think are the intriguing matchups, or at least you do.
Yeah.
I would venture to guess, it's not a stretch to say every one of these games is extremely
When I did the numbers and looked at the bottom line at the end,
intriguing,
my eyes were like,
whatever word you want to use for various reasons.
It's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, again, this is the matchup. So you ready? Let's put this puppy into actual slideshow and go. All right, here we go with the first matchup. That will be Saturday, early game. The Colts visiting, I guess I should say Indianapolis Colts against the Houston Texans. The Colts are coming in with a 3 net point bias in their favor. Net points spread out over a 16-game season, and only 3 net point differentiates these two teams. However, and this is one of the few times we've seen this, where there was such a strong turnover differential that it overrode the net point bias and swung the bias plus score over to the turnover differential team, with Houston coming in with a bias of 11 in their favor, giving them a bias plus score. And Houston, Texan favor of 8 points. Excuse me, of 8. Not points. Okay. Bias plus is just a score at 8. Man, that's intriguing right there. I mean, we're talking even down the middle.
Here's the thing. This is one of those situations where one team is on the rise and one team is kind of flatlining, possibly falling
Which
off.
Teams could be that? Look,
the team that's on the rise is the Indianapolis Colts.
Right.
And that's also the team that I'm picking. So I'm going to go against the bias. I think the 3-point difference in net points overall without the turnover differential really tells the story here.
What do you mean?
In other words, offensively, the Colts and the Texans are pretty even.
Okay.
Considering the Texans got off to a really slow start and then kind of took off.
Okay.
I mean, a 9-game winning streak is nothing to sneeze at. That can change a lot of things numbers-wise. Whereas the Colts kind of started off even keel, stayed even keel for a while, and then got really hot
coming out the gate.
Well, I know the Texans did. I'm not sure how slow the Colts came out.
Yeah,
but
a little slow. For
the last, I'll say 4 weeks, they've looked better and better and better and better.
Especially defensively.
Well, that was going to be my next point.
Okay.
Don't be fooled by the turnover differential margin that's boosting Houston into the bias plus. Their defense is not playing that well right now. And again, we're at that point in the season, it's the playoffs, where the hot team, the team that's playing well right now, is most likely the team that's going to win their matchup. We're talking one and done. It's a tournament now.
All right, let me run over these numbers real quick comparatively. So we already talked about, we mentioned a net point bias, and that's really because the Colts, hold on. Oh, okay. Yeah. Colts came in with plus 89. Houston came in with plus 86. So that's 3 points.
Okay.
Net points in the Colts' favor. In terms of scoring, the Colts came in 5th with 433 for the season. The Texans came in 11th at 402. But in terms of defense, Colts came in 10th at 344, and the Houston came in at 4th with 316. And again, that turnover differential, Colts came in at 2, Houston plus 2, and Houston came in at plus 13. So that's how the numbers broke out to give you a bias plus score of 8. And you're going to go against that?
I'm going to go against all of that and pick the Colts. Because I think the Colts are the hot team right now.
Okay. Momentum, you believe, is on the Colts side. You're going to go with the momentum.
Correct.
All righty. Next up, sleeper team, Seattle. Visiting, playing in the Dome at Dallas. Now, Seattle normally gets the Dome-type benefit because of their great acoustics in their favor in their home field. But now they got to go deal with the Dallas acoustics. However, net point-wise, Seattle's got a 66 net point bias in their favor and a turnover differential bias of 12 turnover differential in their favor for Seattle, giving them a bias plus score of 78. That's a nice, strong score there, Mr. Dickerson.
That's correct. And also, the Cowboys have been playing really well at home, and their defense has been playing really, really well. I don't think their home record is a surprise, but I think their defense has been a bit of a surprise this year. However, Seattle has earned the better net point power ranking. They've played more consistently, especially on offense. I think people are making a big note of the fact that the Cowboys, I think, maybe only lost one game when Zeke went 100 yards or more. But the Seahawks have a running game too. Yeah, absolutely. And those two guys together, almost Carson by himself, but the two guys together can match Zeke's production on any given day.
They run with speed and power. It's amazing.
And a little bit of wiggle.
So,
they're dangerous. That being said, and as much talk as the Dallas defense is getting, I think the Seahawks defense is the hot defense right now.
Well, you know something? Points against, Seattle's coming in at 11th, and the Cowboys are coming in at 6th.
Okay.
But like you said, right now, because even at that, 347 given up for Seattle, 339 giving up for Dallas. What's that? 8
Right.
points over a season.
Seahawks play the Rams twice.
Again,
Cowboys play the Redskins twice.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Wasn't the Eagles game close?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So you're going with the bias on this one?
I'm going with the bias and taking the Seattle Seahawks.
Taking the Seattle Seahawks, man. Look, let me tell you. Well, here we go to the next one. The Chargers.
This is the toughest one to call.
They are visiting the Ravens. That means Lamar Jackson is home with his peeps. And the Ravens have a 3 net point bias in their favor. But again, the Chargers have a turnover differential bias of 4, giving the Chargers the bias plus score. Uno.
I kind of, I'm going to use your favorite word here. I kind of poo-pooed the
It's your favorite word. Come on.
The Houston turnover differential margin because I didn't think they were playing well at the time. But I can't do that with the Chargers. They deserve that turnover margin. They've played really, really good defense. And that 1 point bias plus could be the difference. Now, again, and I use this term game flow, and I seem to be catching myself using it a lot when it comes to the Ravens. The way their offense goes kind of dictates how their defense can play. The way their defense goes kind of dictates what they can get away with on offense. They obviously want to limit the times that he throws the ball, but they're doing very well in the play calling department when they need for him to throw the ball. The calls that are being made are, I don't want to say safe like they're elementary or they're vanilla, but they're doing stuff that they know he can do well. He's throwing to people he feels good about, running routes that he feels good about and has good timing on.
He's putting some nice touch on some balls
He
too.
is. I don't.
Some nice touch
If
on the
he
ball.
had to throw the ball 35 times like some of these other guys do, they would not win. That's my point. I'm not saying he can't throw. I'm not saying he isn't that accurate. All I'm saying is their offense is running real well, like a fine-tuned machine right now, and they have the perfect. Just the eye test tells me they got kind of like a 60-40, probably 70-30 run to pass. Probably 70-30, would you say? They run the ball a lot. They got 2 good running backs plus Lamar. That's 3 scary running backs. I'm just saying.
As long as he doesn't take a hit that takes him out of the game.
Yeah,
and this is the thing that's interesting about him. Right now, his speed, I don't think they have a real handle on it yet.
Probably not.
It
took teams a couple seasons to get used to Michael Vick.
But the Chargers have played them before.
Just saw them 11 days ago. 11 days ago.
The War Room, man, did they go home in the War Room? Were they in there like, okay, what do we got to do?
I mean, they kind of had to.
Are they going to have a spy who runs a 4-3 up on the line of scrimmage?
That's the first thing I'm going to look for when the game starts, if they do have a spy. Because, let's face it, that's one way of going at it. The other thing is, and sometimes they let this information out or sometimes they don't, I wonder if they're using Travis Benjamin as him, as Lamar in practice.
Okay.
Yeah, because Travis Benjamin can throw a little bit. He's thrown ball passes on trick plays, and he can scoot. He's fast. So I think he was a high school quarterback, possibly. But I'm sure they're doing something along those lines. If it's not him, it's somebody else.
Right.
These are things you have to do to prepare, and you have to at least see how you can work your defensive schemes around possibly using a spy. Because his sleight of hand is
pretty good.
It's
also
like Nick Foles, man. Nick Foles is real successful with that RPO because his sleight of hand, you don't know till the last second if he gave that thing up or not.
When again, last season, when I wrote the blog on Will the RPO Save the Eagles season, which you can find at the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings on Facebook, that's what we talked about. He was brought up in the options, coming in with Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
So he was, and remember, you and I used to go, why are they falling for the fakes? They know he can't run. We were like,
But now that was when they ran the read option.
Mm-hmm.
But now the read option has
Evolved.
Some people would say evolved, and some would just say, they just switched. But now it's you ride in, and then you come up to pass.
Right.
So it's not so easy to just cut this off and cut this off.
Plus, since he can't run, it's the best option for him.
Absolutely.
It really works.
And he
works
does it well. So in a way, the answer to that question about the RPO saving the Eagles is, in fact, yes, because he's so efficient at it.
And the defenses really weren't ready for it at that level.
No, because Wentz wasn't running it that much, I don't think.
Right.
And he's not as good at it.
You saw it. It was one of those plays that as a matter of fact, I forget, was it the Chicago that they, you saw it here and there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But you didn't see it almost as a staple. It's becoming more of a staple now in a lot of these offenses. And when your West Coast guru, Andy Reid, is running RPOs with the best of them now, that says something about Andy, evolving and picking up with the time. So absolutely.
A lot of crazy things been said about Andy Reid. I'm sure I said a few of them that weren't real polite, but guy kind of knows offense.
Well, based on what his team has done, and we'll talk about them next week because they got a bye. That's what they're talking about. So, bias plus score of 1 favoring the Chargers, and you say?
I'm going to go with the Chargers. As much as I would like to see Lamar Jackson play really well, and hopefully he will play well and they'll still lose. But no, I wouldn't. I would love to see the Ravens advance, just for the whole intrigue of it. This offense that nobody else is really.
Now, this is the question we talked about again. Let's look at the defensive line. Who has the most dominant defensive line? Chargers, Ravens.
I would dominant overall. I would have to look at the sack numbers on that. But off the top of my head, I'd say the Chargers.
Really?
Run defense, the Ravens, without a doubt.
Okay.
You don't run. People don't run under. You might get one here.
Now, running back for the Chargers is back now.
Yes, Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon from Wisconsin, and but he's coming off an injury, so he's going to be that's going to be his challenge to deal with that run defense. But apparently, you're thinking pass defense goes with the Chargers. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I think pass defense goes with the Chargers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say so. Yeah, Chargers defensive differential is an even 1, and the Ravens is a -3. So, considering, unless somebody had like a crazy amount of fumble recoveries, I want to give a lot of that to interceptions.
Okay.
So, a better secondary for the Chargers.
Speaking of better secondaries, we move to the Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. I guess they carry that mantle until they lose, right?
That's correct.
Against the Chicago Bears. The largest bias of the weekend by far. Bears coming in with a 119 net point bias in their favor and a turnover differential bias of 18 in the Bears' favor, giving the Bears a bias plus score in their favor of 137.
That's a hefty bias plus.
That's a hefty bias plus. Let's look at the internal numbers real quick. Eagles ranked 12th in net points with 19. Chicago ranked 4th with 138. Eagles ranked 18th in scoring with 367. And again, most of this was done under Wentz, but 367 in scoring. And the Chicago Bears ranked ninth in scoring with 421. Mitchell Trubisky and the boys hanging in the top 10. Eagles coming in defensively ranked 12th, giving up 348. Chicago coming in first in terms of points given up at 283. And again, most of what I'm hearing in the media, they're saying, Ravens number one. We're saying based on points, it's Chicago. And then the biggie in terms of turnover differential, with the Eagles coming in 25th with -6. Chicago coming in third with +12.
Hard hitters and ball hawks.
Hard hitters and ball hawks, man.
This was not real hard. I will say this. I am not going to say the Eagles are going to lose. I'm going to pick a winner. But I'm not saying the Eagles cannot win this game. They can. All three starting wide receivers for the Bears have an injury. How bad of an injury, I'm not exactly sure. I have to do a little research and look and see if they had didn't practice or had limited practices. Or
nobody's telling the truth up to
at this point,
practically game time.
They're not going to say
like
nothing
a military secret
until they have to. And I think they don't have to until they give a report on Thursday. So if a guy practices on a limited basis on Thursday,
today is Wednesday,
and gets a full practice in on Friday, chances are he's going to play.
Okay.
But it's all three starters are dinged at least. 2 with ribs, 1 with a shoulder.
How's the running backs? Everybody's good. Running backs.
Good. Running backs are good, and that's the strength of their team.
Yeah.
And again, they got a third running back.
Trubisky,
exactly.
Trubisky can't run.
His running ability.
I saw him running like I had to stop. Like, look at this boy go like that. But he don't slide like he should.
Well, and he'll probably suffer the fate of so many others who didn't like to slide, like Cam and them.
Gosh.
But he's dangerous. He's dangerous.
Yeah.
So if people think that the Bears are in big trouble because their wide receivers are dinged up, if by chance you're playing in a fantasy league that goes all the way through to the Super Bowl like I am, Trey Burton is the guy you might want to get. He's going to be heavily used. He's the tight end. He used to be with the Eagles.
Right.
He has a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah,
he was part of Philly.
Part of the Philly.
He's on the Bears now, and he might turn out to be the number one target come this game.
Wouldn't it be funny if they ran the Philly special on the Eagles?
Everybody else is running.
Well, actually,
they did run it on somebody else.
The Eagles got it from the Bears originally.
Was it the Bears?
Yeah, the coach said that. They got it from the Bears.
Or was it the Broncos?
No, I think it was the Bears.
Okay.
I think it was the Bears.
Anyway.
In any event.
It came from a high school coach.
I'm sure.
Yeah, a high school coach took it to a college coach, and the college coach took it to an NFL coach.
And the high school coach got it from a little league.
Probably. He claims to have invented it.
Got it from the 170s.
He claims to have invented it, but I'm sure
we coached. What was it? One was it?
Yeah, it was 125.
Was it 125?
125.
We coached 125s. Shout out to the Oakland Wildcats, Philadelphia, PA. Shout out to those guys, all the championships that they've enjoyed over the decades.
I think the Eagles' chances of stopping the Bears' run game are going to be slight. I don't think that the Bears will have to throw the ball that much to stay in the game. They are very good on defense.
Oh, wait. You talked about defensive lines. You're saying defense. So
yes, they're very good against the run.
You got two serious defensive lines here.
They're very good against the run, and they're exceptional in the defensive backfield. The Bears.
The Bears.
Okay.
And they have Khalil Mack.
Yes. So, and I also want to make a note, and I'm not committing to who I think is going to the Super Bowl just yet, but just know that as far as the net point power rankings are concerned, the Bears are in the top 5 in 3 of the 4 categories. And the only one they're not in the top 5 of is points 4, and they're sitting at 9, so they're still in the top 10. That makes them a very dangerous team. I don't think the Foles magic is going to hold up this week. I expect the Eagles to make it a good game, but I'm going to go with the Bears.
Well, it's funny, when you look at the two quarterbacks, if you say, who do you trust more in this situation?
Oh, people are going to say Foles. I say Foles.
That's what I'm asking. Do you say
Yes.
Foles? And I kind of lean in that direction with you.
Sure.
And the one thing I've been saying over and over is that Foles has had kind of nice pockets and some good space to throw balls. He got hit in his chest once with the Redskins. But I was most surprised when they played the Texans that he had the kind of time that he had. He gets to his reads quick enough and all of that, but he's got some because he ain't really running nowhere.
No.
So
well, if they give him a clean pocket, he's gonna go to work.
Yeah, can the Bears change that? And no longer and dirty that pocket up a little bit.
Yes,
the Eagles will dirty that pocket up. I do believe that they will dirty. If Mitch is going to throw the ball, he's going to have to.
Right, but Mitch is mobile.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm talking about is how fast you process stuff. And again, Mitch and them, they're doing a great job, but he's going to have to process stuff quick because that Eagle defense, is coming. And the secondary is playing a little bit better.
If the run game clicks, they can keep that to a minimum.
Okay. Well, that's usual. Yeah, no doubt.
The run game clicks, they keep that to a minimum. Where the other way around, Khalil Mack's coming every play, no matter what, and the Eagles' running game is lacking. And if you got a good run defense and you're playing a team that running is not their strength, you can pretty much take that away and make Foles beat you. If he beats you, he's going to beat you with Khalil Mack hanging all over him.
Can Khalil Mack stop Darren Sproles, though? Can he stop Mikey? One guy is this big, but he's running through people.
Those D-backs are going to smack him. They better get him on the boundaries at all times so he can get 1 foot out of bounds. Because if he comes across the middle, he's going to get smacked. He's going to get smacked. Keep him out there. Flare out. Okay, there you go.
Wow.
Get 6 yards, run out of bounds. Don't get hit.
So, going with the bias.
Yep.
Going with the bias. Yeah, that's the largest bias of the weekend. And this is when we talk about an upset in terms of how we define upset. It's when a team overcomes a bias that big.
At least that big.
We've
seen a couple bigger.
We've seen 200. We've seen 300. And I have something with the Sterling Net Point power rankings that I call the bias buster. They're obviously, if they could win this game, they would be the bias buster because there's no bias close. The closest one is the Seattle.
Right.
Dallas bias at 78.
Right.
And the difference between 78 and 137, I mean, the Eagles could win by 1 and maybe still overcome
that bias.
Bust that bias. But long story short, man, some juicy games, some good stuff.
I mean, I don't know what I'll be doing Sunday. Hopefully I'll just be sitting home watching these things. But I will not miss that Chargers-Ravens game because I expect the Chargers to win, and I want to see how they do it. This offense, I mean, you know what? Does he even throw to the wide receivers?
Who?
Lamar.
Trubisky? Oh, Lamar?
Lamar. Can you remember him throwing have you heard Snead's name?
I think he did.
Have you heard Crabtree's name?
Not much. Not much.
Oh, how's he doing it? Smoke and mirrors.
He threw that. Was it
smoke and mirrors and tight ends?
Tight end coming across there.
And they got 3 good tight ends, quiet as it's kept.
I'm sure.
All 3 can block and all 3 can catch. Yeah, John Harbaugh. Yeah, don't sleep on him.
Well, that wraps up the matchup show for Wildcard Weekend. We'd like to share with you a little bit about how you can catch up with us, find us. Number one, if you go to our website, www.benandbarryonfootball.com, you can reach us at our Twitter feed. Now, there's still a little bit more to the show, so don't go anywhere because we still have our rant. You got a rant, right?
I got something.
And maybe a couple points that we like to bring out around football in general. And I will share with you those pages. The Twitter page at B&B on football and the Facebook page at BNBOF. So you can find us there. Now, let's go through the social media first, and then we'll do the rants. How's that sound? So, social media, Sterling Net Point Power Rankings on Facebook. If you see that Sterling up there, you know you're in the right place to find out information. This is the basis for all of our discussion, and you'll see some of the other things that we talked about. We talked about the NFL clock stoppage rules, found some interesting information about that. I had a discussion. I actually had a person on Twitter question when I said, I was looking at a game and I'm saying, why aren't these guys running out of bounds? I believe it was 9 minutes left. We were down 17. Forget which game it was. We talked about it, but I was wondering why they weren't running out of bounds. He sent me a video and says, well, that doesn't work. And I'm going, wait a minute. The clock stops when you run out of bounds. Right. And so, he had video evidence, and I had, what was in my mind from listening to football over the years. And so, just like with anything with the NFL, there's some ifs, some ands, and some buts, and some.
Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
The video evidence that he showed you, was it like one play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just one play.
So again, we kind of talked about some things come down to referee's discretion, and a bang play on the sideline where he has to determine if the clock is going to keep going when he makes the winds, or if he wipes it like that, which means stop it. Okay, he has to make that decision. So he's watching their feet. And I'm not necessarily talking about a tippy-toe catch either. Guy could be running around the end. Defender meets him. If he, like it says in the rules, stops his forward progress right on the out-of-bounds line and drives him out, that clock's going to keep running.
Yes.
If the guy gives him a little juke, sticks the ball out for the first down and just runs out, the clock's going to stop.
Now, the thing that surprised both of us is how the clock is handled differently in the first half.
Yes, I didn't know this, and I thought I knew a lot about football. Actually, I do know a lot about football. Let me not. However, I didn't know this. Go ahead, read that.
All right. So, anytime a player in possession of the ball goes out of bounds, the play clock stops. So that's very interesting. You have the game clock and the play clock. So you have two clocks running. According to the NFL rulebook, the clock is started once the officials spot the ball at the appropriate yardage line on the field, except during the last 2 minutes of the first half.
Are we talking about the play clock right now?
Yes. No, I think we're talking about the game clock. Okay. Let's go through it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it says the play clock stops. According to NFL, the clock is restarted once the officials spot the ball at the appropriate yard line on the field, except during the last 2 minutes of the first half or the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. During these times, the clock doesn't start again until the next snap. So that's not the play clock.
Can't be the play clock.
That's not the play clock that they're talking to.
Exactly.
The offense must run the play before the play clock runs to zero. However, if a player in possession of the ball has his forward progress stopped inbounds and is then pushed out of bounds, the official may mark the player down inbounds at the point of forward progress and signal for the clock to continue running. So the main thing we were talking about was how it's handled, that the clock is handled where it doesn't start to run again till the snap of the ball, the play clock, within the first 2 minutes of the game, of the first half.
Which I knew.
In the last 5 minutes of the second half.
Which I didn't know. I thought it was 2 minutes at the end of the half, 2 minutes at the end of the game.
Right, that's what I thought. So I was talking at 9 minutes. And part of what I'm listening to the matter of fact, the commentators of the game, started talking about it, and it made me focus on it. Okay. But it was still like 9 minutes left.
Right.
So they might not be fully aware
Probably
of how it's done. And again, I'm giving, credence because of all, I looked at a number of different websites who kind of all said the same thing.
Right.
And basically I chose this one to share because I thought it was most concise, and easy to understand. And I'm and it looks pretty accurate.
So it's funny when we're talking about the game clock, if the play is in bounds, the clock continues to run and won't stop unless the play ends out of bounds or penalties or whatever. But when we're talking about the play clock stops at the end of every play and starts again as soon as the referee sets the ball and blows it in.
And sometimes, you'll see like a defensive player, like once the ball is down, instead of him like getting up, he's going to lay there because he's trying to keep that ball out of, you know what I mean?
While the play clock's going.
Right.
Because at the end of the 5 minutes now that we know, I thought it was 2.
Well, actually, let me think about that, because if he does that, the play clock doesn't start till he sets the ball. So he's messing with the game. But maybe that's more
but
game.
He also has to
game
be
clock
declared
the play clock right there when you're laying on the ball.
When a guy, you laying on the ball purposely? That's going to save you a couple milliseconds.
But I've seen this. I have to go back and remember what the situation was. But in any event,
also you teeter on getting called for unsportsmanlike.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Now that's true too. And that's why the guys start fighting. Here we are.
Yeah, you start a fight, you're pretty good. You're good. Right? There you go.
Yeah, you see them sort of scrapping a little bit there. So Ben and Barry on football at BNBOF on Facebook and on Twitter. Again, happy holidays, a happy new year to everybody out there. Wishing you peace, prosperity, good health, and all of that good stuff. Here is Ben and Barry on Twitter. And as we like to talk about, maybe you think about Ben and Barry on Twitter as a great gateway to a lot of good information and a lot of people that are really into the whole football, the analysis, the commentary. You can probably find a lot of good connections if you really want to connect with football. Just visit us on Twitter and you'll be able to maybe connect with some people that you maybe never heard of that are really big on football. And as I like to jest, who wouldn't want to connect with Tony Kornheiser? Besides you.
Tony Kornheiser?
Tony. And
I'd rather get with his partner, Wilbon.
Yeah,
I like Wilbon. Wilbon's cool. Big Chicago fan.
That is true. Yeah. All right. That wraps up the matchup show for Ben and Barry on football. Any famous? Oh, we got our rant real quick.
You got one?
I just want to bring up a couple things. We're at the end of the season. Right. We just came out of Black Monday.
Yep. Happens every year.
About 8 coaches got fired.
That's the average.
About 4 of them were African American coaches.
I don't know if that's an average, but
and we haven't heard much about the Rooney Rule, but again, that's being brought up again. Anyone who doesn't understand what the Rooney Rule is, that's just the rule that Art Rooney from the Steelers led the push to make sure that African American quarterbacks at least got interviewed for head coaches positions. And it's still questionable when you have a league with 60%, 70% of the players are African American, and it switches where the percentages are complete opposite as you get into the coaching and the general manager positions. Wanted to mention, I don't know, did you know that the Jags voided the guarantee in the contract for Leonard Fournette?
Yes.
You heard that?
Yes.
I thought that was interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm sure when he signed the contract, they had something in there in case he had a screw up. Nobody goes into the season expecting to have a major screw up, but he had a major screw up. Gestures. I just did it. I've seen gestures to crowds.
Work on my editing skills. Edit that out of there.
Yeah, I've seen gestures toward crowds and yelling and screaming and then fighting on the field. And really keeping a fight going. Like, there's scuffles. He really was going after somebody. Like, you know, I guess that comes under conduct detrimental to the team. Either way, they were able to legally void that. Now, I heard he's going to appeal it, but I don't think he'll win, because if there was a chance he'd win, I don't think they would have done it. They did it because they know he can't win.
Okay.
You know, and if you're going to be a knucklehead, man, you got to.
Wanted to also shout out, I think we did the shout out on the Top 5 show, but I want to mention again, we nicknamed Saquon Barkley, quote, the gift, because we said he would be a gift to Eli Manning in terms of extending his career. He did it at least for this year. Looks like maybe next year too.
I don't see why not.
You know?
Yeah, y'all can talk about Eli all you want.
So, you know, and if they continue to improve that line where they can protect Eli, give him that pocket, you know, Eli can still get the ball out in most cases. That's so the gift, and he broke 2,000 yards, one of only 3 rookies to ever do that in history.
That's total yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, I believe so. And I saw a stat. I had to throw this out there because we talked about, well, you got this situation with the Steelers and the diva of all diva wide receivers, Antonio Brown. Now, Antonio Brown is amazing. We threw this stat out on the Top 5 show. I'll throw it out again. Antonio Brown, 9,154 yards, 686 receptions over the past 6 seasons. That's the best 6-year span for a wide receiver in NFL history. NFL tweeted that out.
Right. Now, I don't know if you'll remember this conversation we had it a while ago between us, where I said, in my estimation, we were talking about receivers and numbers of catches and what separates. We were probably talking about money at the time. Probably talking about Odell. See, it's all coming back to me now. But I said, in order to be considered a good NFL wide receiver, in my estimation, you got to catch at least 80 balls. Okay. So that probably averages out to about 100 balls a season for 6 seasons.
Yeah, over.
That's crazy. If you get 100 catches in one season, you're a star.
Well, he's no doubt a star.
If you get 95, you're a star. If you get up in Larry Fitzgerald territory, a couple seasons he had back in the day, you're a superstar. Most guys that are really, really good will have 1 or 2 seasons like that over the course of their career. He caught 100 balls 6 years in a row.
And he asked to be traded. And the question came up, as with his diva ways and his hissy fits that he's throwing, is he now worth the trouble? That's a very interesting question when you look at teams like the Texans. And here you go. Here's a stat. DeAndre Hopkins had 115 receptions this season.
That lead the league?
I don't know if it led the league, but this is the question I'm going to throw to you.
Okay.
You're looking at the answer. Don't look.
I can't
Cheater.
I cannot see that. Trust me.
I
couldn't see it if I was sitting right in front
of me. How many
of me.
drops did he have?
All right, before I answer that question, can I ask you a question?
No.
It's not really a hint.
That's okay. What? Go ahead.
Is the number of balls he dropped any kind of a record?
I don't know.
Okay. He how many catch? 115?
115.
This season.
Yeah.
He dropped less than 10. I'll say I'm gonna give you the number. He dropped 4 balls.
4. Okay.
How many he dropped?
0. Wow. And no drama. He don't drop anything. He don't drop a ball.
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing. This kind of stuff comes.
I thought you were going to go almost. He dropped 2. He dropped none. He caught 115 balls. Doesn't say how many targets he had, does it?
No.
Okay. I don't care.
Well, if he had,
He made
if he dropped, if he,
I don't care.
Yeah,
He's
no.
the only guy on their team.
I mean,
When Fuller went down, when was that? Week 10, week 8? Once Fuller went down, it was just Deshaun and him. And he caught 115 balls.
not dropping nothing.
When you know he's getting it.
Man, right, exactly.
And didn't drop. Oh, stop it.
Amazing, amazing. So, some awesome stuff this season. Again, go back, check out Ben and Barry on Football on Twitter and on Facebook. Follow some of the information that is being put out on Twitter. Some of these amazing statistics are being shared. Your turn. Rant? No rant?
Oh, all I was going to say is we talked about the coaches getting fired. For the most part, I could see Dirk Cotter getting fired from the Buccaneers. He's been given ample time. They have not turned the corner. Adam Gase was supposed to be some kind of boy genius like the Rams coach, and he proved to be a fraud. I think the Dolphins realize that, and they're cutting bait. Hugh Jackson, we don't even need to talk about him.
Wait. I hear he's in contention for the Bengals job.
Of course he is. That's why he went there. They just look. Certain teams, the Bengals are going to be the new Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
I feel bad for Joe Mixon. Joe, get out of that contract. get out of there. It's going to be a long time before you win again. Steve Wilkes, I feel, was done unjustly.
Cardinals,
1 year
right?
with the Cardinals, yes.
Rookie quarterback.
1
year.
Right. They had just lost several people to free agency, I believe. Best running back coming off a wrist injury. You go, wrist, no big deal. Yeah, your offensive line is a mess. From day one, their offensive line was a mess. They knew they weren't going to be able to run the ball well. And their best player is their running back. They didn't do anything to address it. I think he should have been given at least another year. Vance Joseph, unfortunately, did get a couple. And as far as John Elway and them are concerned, the Broncos haven't turned any kind of corner or shown any real progress in improving their team. But I feel bad for Steve Wilkes. I think he should have got another chance. Now, last but not least, Marvin Lewis. You may have heard me speak about Marvin Lewis before. And it was probably along the lines of, how does this guy still have a job? This dude's been a head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, not only 16 years, on the same team, and has done absolutely nothing. He has 0 playoff wins. 0 playoff wins. Okay? They come up small every single year. The players change, but the outcome remains the same. And you can say, oh, well, AJ got hurt this year. What about the years AJ didn't get hurt? Stop it. Whatever pictures he had or anything he had on somebody's statute of limitations took care of that. That's over.
That's his theory. He had pictures on somebody.
Yeah. They pulled the trigger on my man. He's out of here. And if Hugh Jackson gets that job, there's something wrong. There's something wrong upstairs. There's something wrong. Them owners and there's something wrong. But what are you going to do? All now, right. Last thing. There's been some talk, and there's going to continue to be talk because these coaches are freshly fired. 4 of them are African-American. 5 if you count Hugh Jackson. So it always comes up, are there going to be more black coaches coming along? Who's in the pipeline? Blase. I heard an interesting fact. Well, I don't know if I want to call it fact, but I heard an interesting comment today. And it seems that the trend in the NFL obviously is offense. Quarterbacks scoring points, taking things away from the defense to be able to stop them. It's all offensive driven. Mm-hmm. But the number of offensive-oriented coaches, black coaches, being in a position to become NFL coaches is lacking. Todd Bowles, defensive coach. Marvin Lewis, defensive coach. Steve Wilkes. They're all defensive coaches. They're all defensive centric. And when you look back at the college ranks, it's kind of the same thing. So, I mean, I don't have any say over anything, and I don't know who watches us. But if there's guys out there in the college ranks that are coming up, start working on your offensive game, man. I would hate to see the trend that the game is taking become a detriment to black guys getting head coaching jobs.
Okay.
And that's why they made the Rooney Rule, so they could take away these reasons, these excuses.
Well, you mentioned something, the word pipeline. As a matter of fact, I saw on one show, and I forget who the two people were, but they were talking about apparently there are pipelines.
Yes.
And there weren't apparently a lot of African-American coaches in the pipelines. And I know when I've listened to them talk about potential college coaches coming up, really not. So, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, they were on the outside. The pipeline keeps moving.
Mm-hmm.
And you get noticed, but you're not in the guy in the line's going to come next, So the Rooney Rule kind of made them break through that a little bit. And there are head coaches that do internships and stuff too in the NFL. I remember Bruce Arians was one, and he brought a couple of players up and gave them internships during the summer and during training camp to try to help prepare them for getting into the coaching ranks.
I think he said something about he would come back, but only to coach. I'm not sure if he said the Bucks or the Browns.
He likes the Bucks.
The Bucks.
I think he likes the Browns too, but he likes the Bucks. Don't ask me. These guys, they watch, they pay attention, and he's probably thinking, you know what?
I can get that.
I can do something
together.
Yeah,
I can get that defense.
And he's another defensive coach, by the way. No, I'm sorry. He's an offensive mind. He's an offensive mind. He was a quarterback in college. I think he'd like to get his hands on Jameis. I think he thinks he can fix Jameis.
Stop the turnovers. Get those reads right.
Because believe me, the
1, 2, 3.
They
overcome the running,
the yardage,
the
ain't
athletic
no joke.
quarterback.
He problem
of
he puts up
tending
numbers
to run instead of getting to your third option.
And then Jameis don't even really run that much no more. He gets down quick.
He does.
He gets down quick because he knows he's got that arm.
I think it was the receiver on the Lions who slid. They was coming in at him. He got the ball across the middle, and everybody's coming. He slid.
And he got down?
No, it might have been the Colts.
And he slid before they get in?
He was like,
I see that a lot. You know who used to do that a lot? Remember Greatest Show on Turf? Back then when they had Marshall Faulk, all their receivers did that. Torrey Holt, As Hakeem, them boys got down quick. But they caught a lot of balls over the middle.
Yeah.
And they ran that route a lot. And they're like, you're not going to get us.
Yeah.
If we can help it, I'm just going to go down. I know if you hit me,
it's going to hurt.
And I'm going down anyway.
Right.
So I'm just going to get on down.
It's like Franco running out of bounds.
Yeah, right. Break a tackle? For what?
For who? For what? All right, that was fun. So and that was pretty much it.
I'm done, man.
Oh man, fantastic. Ben and Barry on football. The matchup show will be back next week, same time, same YouTube channel. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so that you'll be notified, and be ready because we're going to be back talking next week. What's that, division round?
Yeah, we'll be talking about these wildcard games here.
We'll talk about the in review
division round coming up next.
and take a look at it. Ben and Barry on football signing off.
Go Noles.